Hello, Hellbenders. Can you hear us? Let us know you can hear us, and we will get started with the show. Let us know in chat you can hear us, you can see us, everything looks good, everything sounds good, everything is copacetic. All right. I'm looking at this. Oh, loud and clear. Perfect.
Loud and clear, right on. So.
Perfect. Okay. We have a lot of folks in the chat. Got a lot of the regulars in the chat today.
Usual suspects.
The usual suspects. Stephen Taylor says, would it kill you to hit that like button? Make sure you hit that like button.
Stephen Taylor at the gate.
He's on point. On point all the time. So yeah, hit that like button. Although you don't even know if you're gonna like what we're gonna say.
Yeah, you may hate it.
You might commit to the like button.
You always change your mind later.
Yeah.
Can you? Can you
I think
change a like to a
dislike? Yeah,
so.
You can. All right. All right. Let's do all this stuff. Let's get started. Shall we? Okay. Welcome to Helmet Holler Live. My name is Jesse. This is Joe. This is our weekly show we do on Mondays at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. And it's a show where we gather together with our friends, the Hellbenders, and have a live in-person chat about all things weird, high strangeness, UAPs, paranormal, ex-wives, all kinds of crazy and weird stuff. Thank you for joining us tonight. This is a very special episode because we are about to embark on a journey. We're about to go gather up our wagons, hitch up the horses, and go to the great state of Ohio. We will be going to Monster Fest this weekend, and it's going to be a blast. So we're very, very excited about that. This is kind of our little send-off show. We're going to talk about a little bit about what's going to happen at Monster Fest, what we're looking forward to, and the people that's going to be there with us. And if you guys have anything you want to talk about, hop in the chat and throw it at us. We'll discuss it.
Give us some topics because we ain't prepared. So,
MK Ultra, our boy, says the Ohio. Yes.
One and only.
The Ohio of the American Ohios. Oh, yeah. Cocaine and ex-wives. Yep, that is pretty much what we cover here. Some say it's a cryptid and paranormal show. I say it's a show about bad choices mostly. So, all right, very cool. Jaeger71 says horses. Don't you mean donkey? Well, the first donkey apparently died in the mail. So we're waiting.
The donkey never arrived, man. We should have poked more holes in the box.
Should have poked holes in the box.
The donkey box. So
yeah. Luis
Franco. Yes, it is Memorial Day. Happy Memorial Day. Although it's always weird to go Happy Memorial Day. I mean, I think MK Ultra had posted something about that online earlier.
That you're not supposed
getting ready to get dogpiled for saying Happy Memorial Day. But anyway, I hope you all are remembering the reason for the day.
For sure. Sam Burton says, make sure you eat some Skyline chili.
Passing on that, Sam Burton. So we are passing.
Yeah, that's a hard no for me. I'm not gonna. Is there any other Ohioan cuisine other than Skyline chili?
I think that's pretty much where it ends.
Yeah, it does. It just ends there. Just abruptly ends there. All right, cool. All right, so let's get over this. Let's start going over this. All right, so this Saturday.
Skyline chili is the traditional food of Ohio. That's pretty much all that comes up.
Oh, goodness.
Yep. Oh Lord.
Oh my. So this Saturday coming up, if you're not aware, Saturday, June the 3rd is Monster Fest. We have been preparing and ready and excited about Monster Fest since last October. Is when we signed up for this debacle. So Monster Fest is being put on by Small Town Monsters. They make awesome films and documentaries about cryptids and the paranormal. They've been focusing a lot on cryptids lately, but they focus mostly on cryptids and monsters and everything. Hence the name. Our good friend Martin Groves was featured in their film American Werewolves, which is a awesome watch. If you haven't seen American Werewolves yet, make sure you go and watch that. I think you can watch that on Tubi, or
it's on Tubi right now,
possibly Prime. But make sure you check that out. Our friend Martin Groves is in there, and he tells his story for I guess, the first time to the public
Mm-hmm.
in that film. So speaking of Martin Groves, he will be joining us at our table at Monster Fest, along with the man himself, the Wizard of Soggy Bottom, Dewey Edwards.
And now Dewey Edwards was in the Bell Witch Legend movie. So
And
we're with a couple of movie stars.
Dewey is the Bell Witch guy.
Yeah.
He is the Bell Witch guy. So Joe and I are going to be basically just a couple of little lackeys, just patting the sweat off of their heads.
Yeah, exactly.
But we're really, really excited. If you guys do come to Monster Fest, make sure you come and find us. We're going to be in the hallway. Because we're going to be where the sponsors are, because we are one of the main sponsors of the event this year. But we're going to be in that hallway between where the screening room is and the speakers hall is upstairs. But it's going to be where the screening room is and the podcasting area and where the vendors are located. And it's going to be at the Doubletree Hotel in downtown Canton, Ohio.
And it's going to be cool because we're not speaking.
No.
We're not selling really anything.
Nope.
I don't think we got anything to sell, do we? Might have something.
We're just going to
We're just there to hang out and shoot the breeze with people. So we have literally no obligations other than just to be there when they open and then be there till they close and then we're done.
Yeah. So I wanted to throw this out there. If any of you guys are coming to Monster Fest, and you're in our chat regularly or on our channel regularly, if you could shoot us an email and let us know that you're going to be at Monster Fest, right?
Yeah, drop us an email, put Monster Fest in the subject line, and include your YouTube handle, because some of y'all we know by your YouTube handles.
Yes.
So if you have a johnsmith@gmail.com, we may not make that association.
Just, put Monster Fest in the subject line and then let us know who you are. Butterfinger Baby 666, whatever your handle is. And let us know if you're coming to Monster Fest. Make sure you come by. We're going to have stickers and stuff. So we'll be giving out stickers and stuff. We might have a couple other goodies. If you are one of our regulars, we might have a couple of extra little goodies for you. So come by our booth, come say hello to us and talk to us. Keep us company. It's going to be a wild day. It's going to be a long day, but we're really, really excited about it. We're excited to have you guys come out and join us for that. So Joe, if you want to handle that little chat there, I'm going to pull something up real quick.
Cool. Jeff Townsend, all out of the gate. Thank you, sir. We haven't even done anything yet. Thank you for that. $20. That'll go towards gas money to
So I've never been to Ohio, and I have to drive the entire way up there, and it's going to be 9 hours?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's going to be fun. But I think we're going to stop in Charleston, West Virginia on the way up, and maybe have dinner with Ron from Wild and Weird, West Virginia.
But again, thank you for that, Jeff. We appreciate that.
Yes.
So if anybody's got anything, chime on in. It's been kind of a mixed bag. News week this week as far as stuff going on.
But until then, we'll go back to Monster Fest. So who is going to Monster Fest is going to be Seth Breedlove. He better be there. I'm hoping he shows up. He's just going to hide in the bathroom the whole time. Yeah. Cliff Barackman's going to be there. He's one of the headliners there. Micah Hanks has a pretty good podcast. It's very, very informative. I've just started listening to it pretty on the regular, and it's very, very informative. It's a lot of information that comes at you during his podcast. Stan Gordon is going to be there. He's an interesting cat too. He's got a lot of cool stuff. Shannon LeGros, Lyle Blackburn, Jeremiah Byron.
Jeremiah's in the chat.
Who is in the chat right now. He's a guest there. I'm just looking around here. Alexander Petikoff, of course. All the people from the Small Town Monsters crew. They're going to all be there. Aaron Dees is going to be there. Aaron Dees just put out the Texas Dogman Triangle book.
Yeah.
And we actually contributed some to that book. So if you get a chance, go ahead and order that. That was the initial release from Small Town Monsters Publishing.
Yeah, and it goes over a outbreak of Dogman cases in Texas. That the first 3 that they found kind of formed a triangle pattern.
Yeah.
And then they started focusing on the bounds of that triangle within the bounds of that, and started discovering that there was a ton of activity going on in there. And what's interesting is Aaron, the gentleman who wrote it,
yeah,
was very I don't want to say dismissive about the whole Dogman phenomenon, but he just thought that it was basically maybe some dogs or wolves that have evolved or learned to be on hind legs, and that was what was causing the sightings, and that all of the more dramatic sightings, there's just literally no way that any of that's true.
Yeah.
And then he went in to do research on this book and then came out going, all right, I've done a complete 180. There's something here.
So now he's committed to werewolves are real. So
Yeah,
he's
exactly.
totally committed to werewolves are real.
Yeah.
I hope to eventually work with Aaron on some other project in the future concerning Dogman.
We've got something lined up.
So that would be really cool. Finding the Trackway says, are you two going to stop at Salt Fork? Is Salt Fork on the way to Canton, Ohio? Again, I've never been to Canton, Ohio. So if it's on the way, I would not mind stopping by there. Check that out.
That is in Ohio, but I don't know where in Ohio, though.
If you pull up a little map-a-reno there, kid. Yeah. Frank's in here. He stopped at the DoubleTree to scope it out. He said it's a cool place. Very good, Frank. I'm glad you made it up to Ohio.
Send up our scout.
Yeah, our scout. Yeah, we've got a lot of people coming up to meet us and hang out with us. It's going to be a lot of fun. Let's see. Stingray 1975 says he has a pig boy table he'll have in the hallway at Monster Fest as well.
Central Florida Bigfoot says that he thinks the tactical Bigfoot research is going to be there. So,
cool.
Our buddy Mike Ann that we have not seen since Blade Show a couple years ago.
Yeah, somebody asked me today if I was going to go to Blade Show this weekend. I was like, nope, I'm committed to Monster Fest. I think we mentioned this before. I don't think there's really any kind of knives that we're really looking forward
to. Tapped out. Knife budget's gone. So
the knife budget's gone. Yeah. Jeff Townsend says, hey, Joe, when I have time, I'm going to send you guys some factual information that most people do not know about Bigfoot. The only way I figured this out is knowing two people that provided me Vic, and then it cuts off there. So send
it away, whatever you got, man.
The email is down below if you guys want to send us anything. But like I said, if you're going to mention to us that you're going to Monster Fest in the subject line. So let's see here. Bigfoot Society, that's Jeremiah Byron. He says, don't miss my interview with Martin Groves live in the podcast room at 10:30 a.m. Central Time. So Martin will be in the podcast room and he's going to be doing a live interview. So for those of you who can't make it to Monster Fest, you can tune in live and listen to Jeremiah interview Mr. Martin Groves. Joe and I have decided that we are going to try to do some lives from Monster Fest.
We're going to do some lives. I just don't know what lives we're going to do.
It's pending the internet situation when it's going on, because usually when you have any kind of convention or anything that's got a lot of people concentrated in one area, you kind of get limited on your Wi-Fi. But I think we have access to the other Wi-Fi. So we are going to try to do some lives. I'll probably walk around the floor and film a bit, walk around the whole convention, and I'll bring you guys some of the Monster Fest festivities live.
That's not what I'm doing.
That is definitely not what Joe's doing.
I'm getting everybody liquored up after the show. And then we're going live. We're doing it live. I don't know what time you said, because Bigfoot Society, it's 10:30 a.m.
Did I say p.m.? It's a.m.
A.m.
Eastern Standard. No, he said Central.
Oh, gotcha.
He messed
up,
not
Eastern
me.
Standard Time.
I was correct. Okay, so it's 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time. So there you go. So make sure you guys tune in to that. And we're going to be doing lives from Monster Fest. So have your notifications on. That way you guys can tune in and see what's up. But if you do miss our lives, they will be on our channel, so you guys can check them out later for sure.
So we'll probably do a few small lives throughout the day. And then when everything kind of wraps up, we might try to see who we can wrangle up.
Yeah, I think we were discussing with a few different people, probably just doing some drop-in, just small chats. Every time we go to these conventions, we do end up in the hotel bar for a little bit. So we'll see how that works out. I remember at Crypticon one year, we ended up there with Wild Bill from Mountain Monsters.
We ran into Wild Bill from Mountain Monsters, and I thought I was going to get into a fist fight with Wild Bill for the first, remember? The first 30 seconds, I was just like, I don't know what this dude's problem is, but I think we're going to blows here. And then after that, he was our best friend.
Yeah.
We literally hung out with Wild Bill from Mountain Monsters all night long, and it was just weird, but really cool.
Yeah.
And I know that everybody that's really serious about the whole like cryptid paranormal thing. It's like, oh, that show's terrible. They're fake. And yeah, they're fake. Everybody knows it's fake. Okay. Do you know who doesn't know it's fake? Is like millions of like kids out there. And like every time we saw this dude, he's got like kids on his shoulder signing autographs. You know, a lot of people are there just because they're contractually obligated to be there.
Mhm.
He was having a ball, man.
Yeah.
He just had an absolute blast, and you could just see that a lot of these kids, you know, he's striking some real inspiration with them, and they might be involved in this sort of stuff for the rest of their lives
Mhm.
just because of that. So it was
Yeah.
pretty cool. It was pretty cool hanging out with him.
Yeah,
I
a lot
walked
of
away with a
people-
different opinion of him after hanging out with him for
Yeah,
for
a
that
lot.
long.
I think it's kind of in a way, just because it is Mountain Monsters is it's a little slapstick that, you know, a lot of people who are really, really serious people about cryptozoology or paranormal investigating, they kind of treat it like low hanging fruit and just dog it out. But it's not for you.
Yeah,
That's
it's not.
it's for kids basically,
Yeah.
and it's really, you know, maybe that kid is going to watch that and become the person
That solves all this
that
stuff 20 years down the road.
solves it
So,
all at the end. So I think it's really good. He's a really nice guy, really, really genuinely nice person. Yeah, we were at that hotel bar for
all night long with Wild Bill. It was the weirdest thing ever. So,
Oh.
and then all these other like Bigfoot like celebrities are like looking at us like, what the hell's wrong with these people? Because we're like ripping it up with Wild Bill at the
Yeah,
bar.
it was a lot of fun.
We weren't dignified enough, I think, for the cryptid community. So
Tristan Myers said there was a Dogman encounter about 5 miles from my house. It charged their Jeep, picked up the front, dropped it, and then followed them out of the woods.
was this recent?
Yeah, let us know
Yeah.
if this was a recent thing that happened around you. You know, I think stories like that really contribute to the fact that these are like a supernatural being, because you don't have just an evolved, like you were mentioning earlier, that some people think that these are just strangely evolved wolves or dogs, that you're not going to have something with that kind of strength to lift up a Jeep.
I still think that there's a multitude of things going on that feeds into what we lump under the umbrella of Dogman.
Mhm.
And I think that's pretty much true for, I'd say, damn near almost everything out there at this point. Okay. But Dogman especially. What's obvious to me, though, that if there is a like native breeding population of these things, it ain't that big and it ain't that many places. And it couldn't account for all of the sightings that are seen. And it definitely couldn't account for some of the stuff that very credible witnesses say, this is what happened to me.
Also think about like the difference in environment that people are seeing these
Mhm.
creatures, you know, like you don't have the same wildlife that is pretty, what am I trying to say here? You don't have the same wildlife all over the country. You know, different areas of the country have
Mhm.
different native species, but it seems like with Dogman, with Sasquatch even, that it doesn't matter the environment.
You can get
You have people having these sightings.
you can get completely different physical descriptions a very relatively short distance away from each other.
Yeah.
And you can get extremely different behaviors. And I think the big thing is too, is that when you start to get into these areas where, I mean, somebody could play devil's advocate and I could go, well, somebody saw one in their backyard in a suburban area. If they're there all the time, they'd be seen, you know?
Oh yeah.
I mean, mountain lions are pretty damn sneaky, and people catch them on like ring cameras like all the time. Not all the time, but quite often they catch them on there. But you don't really get a lot of ring camera footage of Dogman or anything like that. So if they're, and I think they're there. I know that I believe these people that are telling us that. So either they're defeating these cameras somehow. And I'm sure that happens some. I just don't think they're there all the time. I think they come from somewhere else. They're here, they do their thing, and then they leave again.
Slip in and out of our
reality above
or-
ground. I mean, some of it might be subterranean, and there might be areas where there's a semi-permanent population of these things at. But all right, so south of us, an hour south of us or so, they are having sightings of something, okay, that sounds Dogman-ish, okay?
Yeah.
And the area that they're talking about has undergone a lot of development over the past few years, and these sightings just started up. And there's been multiple of them. and they're in an area that's got a lot of wilderness to it, but not enough wilderness to maintain a breeding population of something that big that would need to maintain that many calories, on a daily basis. They would have to have a certain amount of calorie intake on a daily basis to basically support that bulk. But people are seeing them, so they're coming here from somewhere and then they're going somewhere else. And again, that could be underground, interdimensional. I don't know, man. But I mean, at that point, it's conjecture. But what's not conjecture is that they're not there all the time, and that people are seeing them, and then they're just gone.
So what's interesting about that case too, and I'm not going to give away any specifics about it because we're kind of working this case a little bit before we share it with anyone. It has a history. This area that we're talking about has a history of these sightings back through the ages.
When we say ages, we mean
through the ages.
As soon as there were people on the North American continent in this area, they were seeing these things.
Yes, and there's lots of legends in that area about this particular creature. And it seems like over the years, it completely dropped off. But now it seems like we're getting a lot of reports from this area all at once about this creature, almost like it's got a resurgence, like it's coming back.
And what's taking place in that area? There's development going on. I don't want to go too deep because people can find it, but there's some development going on. There's some certain things that have been, a bridge was torn down. There seems to be some association with Dogman and these old bridges, especially when they're disturbed, with the earth itself being disturbed. And there's always been a strong Native American presence there. There's Indian mounds, there's other stuff like that.
Now, do you think this changing of the environment, this development, they're cutting down forests, they're doing all this stuff. Do you think that's kind of akin to when people move into a home and they start doing renovations, they start tearing out walls, and then all of a sudden they have poltergeist activity or they have basic haunting activity coming out, but it's just on a wider scale? That it's something about disturbing the environment and shaking up the environment in a kind of a negative way, I guess, according to this creature or whatever is motivating it. I think
that's just a common thing that, look at, and again, we're not big, other than the books that were written on Skinwalker Ranch, but we haven't watched the TV show that much. People keep mentioning it to us and we'll eventually watch it, but people keep talking about how whenever they dig there, they get activity. Whenever they disturb the earth, they get activity. Whenever you're in a home and you disturb the home, you disturb the landscape, you get activity. What we've noticed is there's been 3 or 4 cases now within our general region that has had crazy activity once there's been some sort of construction going on, some sort of like land moving going on. There was that person in Eastern Kentucky who they had eminent domain to some of his property, and they were going through, and he even tried to fight it by saying, hey, we think this was a site of cultural importance to the Native Americans, and the developers got what they wanted, and they bulldozed it. And after they started bulldozing it, remember that stuff went crazy. He was seeing all sorts of stuff. The guy we're talking about was seeing, remember he told him they moved like crackheads. He was like, they're tall, they're skinny, they're covered with hair.
And the skull mask.
That he saw, that he thought that this is one of the guys who goes in, who just is reporting what he's seeing. And he goes into like some Facebook cryptozoology group going, I need some help. I'm not really into this stuff. This is what's happening. And he describes it, and people start going, that's a Wendigo. That's cultural appropriation. You need to stop. That's only in the north. And the guy's going, whoa.
I'm just telling you what I'm seeing.
Because he was seeing these tall, skinny things move really weird. And he said they had skulls for faces and antlers. And then he got a closer look and he goes, have you guys ever heard about anything wearing masks? Because it looks like these things were tied to their faces, tied to their heads. And all of that happened after there was land being moved there. When what he thought was possible Indian burial grounds. And it sounds like that that had been kind of like a little local legend, but nobody had really ever tried to pursue it officially, just because it was a local legend. And then when they started to take the land, he was going, I think this has some cultural importance. You're just making that up. You're just trying to keep us from eminent domaining your property there. And what's interesting is that was the first time we heard about these things using masks. And then we've heard about that
a couple of times after that.
It's been more than a couple of times. It's been like 5 times at this point,
People reporting, and these are people who have no, prior connection with anything cryptid or cryptozoology related at all. And these are just people giving their accounts of what they saw out in the woods. They saw a large, hairy creature. In one story that our friend told us, they were wearing kind of a tattered clothing in a way. But they were hairy creatures, but they had deer skulls affixed to their faces.
And then upon questioning, they didn't know if it was tattered like clothing, like woven clothing, or if it was tattered hides or something, but that they were wearing something. And then that's cropped up a couple of times in this part of the country. We took those reports where a person that we know that is quite trustworthy was talking to people, basically hunters in like gun stores, remember? And he had overheard two people talking about seeing these creatures, and there was a local, like a regional name for them they used, not Sasquatch, but that they were wearing like deer skulls, and they saw them hunting. They were doing like ambush hunting and everything like that. Remember the guy claimed that he watched them from his deer blind, and they weren't even like really trying to share it. They were basically going, hey, you don't want to go hunt there. I was there. This is what happened. This is where you need to go to. Try to stay out of that area. Blah, blah.
That's freaking weird, you know?
And then if I remember correctly, the person we spoke to tried to kind of horn his way in the conversation. They just shut up. They just didn't want to, because they don't want to be considered crazy. They don't want people to hear that and go, these are crazy people.
It's kind of interesting to think about that too, that, you know, we talk about this connection with disturbing the land, moving this around, desecrating burial sites. And it seems like it brings up Dogman or cryptid activity.
Or in the case of Skinwalker Ranch, all the stuff that's going on.
All the stuff that happens there. That is definitely not happening in the land between the lakes. So,
well, think about outside the land between the lakes. There's rock quarries. There's tons of caves. Not that that's a disturbance.
Of course, last time we were there, we heard a lot of explosions.
Yeah, a lot of explosions that were supposedly.
Yeah, there is a rock quarry. Grand Rivers, there's rock quarries all around Grand Rivers. So they're exploding all the granite there.
Yeah. So.
Central Florida Bigfoot says, you guys should get some action figures made to sell. We are narcissistic, but we are not that narcissistic. Although you can call my bluff on that narcissism thing when you see the banners that we had made for Monster Fest. Joe, how are those?
We needed something for our table because again, we're not like vendors. We don't sell stuff. You know what I'm saying? We don't like have like a website where you can like buy stuff off of. We just go out in the woods with weird gear and then talk about it afterwards. And that's pretty much our shtick. So we were like, we need something for this table. We just can't be just standing there, you know? So we ordered like this what is that? The collapsible banner or the retractable banner. We ordered a retractable banner. The damn thing's like 9 feet tall, man. It's crazy. Yeah. So it's just this big 9 foot tall Jesse just staring at you in the face. So
you're welcome.
All right. And she has not let me take it down since we got it. It's just been
going back to Wild Bill, like these really endearing stories about Wild Bill. Cassie's Cryptid Land says, my kid gave Bill an 8x10 photo of him in jorts holding an American flag. It's in Bill's living room.
Doesn't surprise me a bit. So does not surprise me one bit.
Goodness gracious. Yeah. All right, I'm scrolling through the chattery screen.
EREV's got something good here. What if these places are old power sources and by old contracts and agreements with these beings of old? I think what he's saying is some of these areas may be sacred old power sources. There might have been an agreement once upon a time that some of these areas were to basically be kind of off limits for people.
Yeah.
And now maybe it's no longer off limits. You know, they're putting up a Hardee's and a subdivision there, and that might be stirring stuff up. That might be that's actually a very good theory. So.
Philip Payne says, what is frightening is their casual ability to flit into our reality. I believe that they are partly utilized to spy on us.
Spy on us for what?
For what?
I mean, I can't say. I mean, again,
that's kind of disturbing, isn't it?
The nuts and bolts of it, you know, the finer details, I think, are just all conjecture at this point. I mean, I've heard people go, "Oh, they live in the woods behind my house, and they tell me this, and maybe that's true, maybe that's not. I don't know. I think the only thing that's undeniable is that if they were here all the time and they were just flesh and blood, there'd be more information. You know what I'm saying? So there would be something. I don't think the cover up mechanisms are so strong at this point that something wouldn't be out there. Although, again, I still go back to this about AI. I think that AI, we're just hell, we might even already be there right now. I don't know, but we're pretty much the point where you're not going to believe anything that you see online. I think you can trust video images for a little while longer, and then after that, it's going to be video images from multiple camera sources, and then shortly after that, it probably is just going to be, if you weren't there and you don't believe it, I don't believe you.
Yeah.
You know, so because I think AI is going to get to the point where it's going to be able to fake anything to such a convincing degree that
you're just never going to know.
You're just never going to know. So
Tristan Myers follows up. She was mentioning that it was on a mountain road where people go jeeping and whatnot, where this incident occurred. And that her friend said it looked like a werewolf because she didn't really know what a dogman was.
Yeah.
So that's, you hear that a lot. But she follows up also with saying, oh, and my mom has been hearing something like a metallic door slamming almost every morning at 3:10 a.m. on the dot. That's a little bit after the witching hour there, which is pretty interesting. But it seems like a lot of people are reporting this metallic door slamming.
And it's so weird because, like I said, that was something that I tracked for like years, just because it's just one of those weird things that like stands out to you that you just go, well, that's weird. Why is nobody talking about that?
Yeah.
Because that had been coming up in Bigfoot reports off and on. And I've talked about it on here before, that what originally caught my attention was just the way that people were trying to explain it away. You know,
well, you hear, like, I remember we would watch videos or listen to audio that people would record, and nobody mentioned anything about this. They were just like, it's weird. It sounds like there's a car door slamming. Nowhere near a highway.
Metallic, like rattling. But the thing that originally caught my eye on this, I've talked about this before, is that there was a Bigfoot researcher going, well, I think that a hurricane, and it was a tornado. I think a tornado has torn the tin roof off of a shack and deposited where this clan is, and they shake the tin roof to amuse juveniles. And that's what I'm hearing. And I'm going, damn, that's a pretty elaborate friggin' thing, man. But
it's the mental gymnastics.
But so I started seeing that, and other people were chiming in going, oh yeah, but it's this. Everybody had a different explanation. Nobody thought it was weird, you know? And I'm going, all right, so all of you guys are hearing this.
It's crazy how people try to rationalize the irrational in such an intense way, and it's like, and it's just so many twists.
And I can see you going, all right, here's some possibilities. Okay, maybe that happened. Maybe there was something. Maybe there's some old tin cans stuck in the trees, and the wind blows, and they bang together. And
following.
It just, you know, there's lots of different things, but it always seems to happen in these areas where there's Sasquatch activity. It happens around the time when the Sasquatch activity kind of rears its head, and I'm just going, you know, it's and maybe it's any of those, but it was a lot more widespread. And then when the Missing 411 The Hunted came out, the Tom Mezek case talks about that. Then some people who were up in that area were researching that area a couple years after the Tom Mezek thing. They said that it had been heard before up through there.
Yeah.
Usually associated with some other weird stuff happening. Then the Martin Groves case comes out front and center. He talks about it. And it just seems like that's one of those like sleeper things that people, and the descriptions are always kind of varied.
But I think everybody's kind of going back through these stories
and
now.
Yeah, and they're talking about the same thing. So
Manu says, the inner earth hypothesis seems to be the most probable for the existence of these and other creatures.
Possibly so. I mean,
possibly so, but there's a lot of areas where the terrain does not support any kind of like underground network. You have somewhere like Kentucky where there's already an underground network of caves and cave systems that are, you know, wholly undiscovered or unexplored at this point. But you have some places where you have sightings of these where it's pretty much impossible to have any kind of underground network of any kind. So,
but I think that does explain some of it. I think
that explains how some of them in places like Kentucky, they can disappear in and out. Maybe if it's not an interdimensional thing, it's them ducking in and out of these cave systems, right?
Well, I think that there's no one category of like entity that's responsible for all of these. I'm starting to think that there's no one explanation. There's no one size fits all explanation for some of this stuff.
Yeah.
People are like, oh, some of the UAPs are just government experiments. I think you're right. Some of them are. Some of them are nuts and bolts craft. I don't think that happens all the time, but it might be to the point where, yeah, there's some nuts and bolts craft that took off from somewhere else and landed. Some of it's considered interdimensional. I just think that there's such a, I kept trying to say that, oh, there's no way that there's nuts and bolt craft out there, that these things are coming from, that they're plasma or there's some sort of energy form. I don't think it's a nuts and bolts craft.
It's coming from another solar system.
But now I'm to the point now where, like, as you learn more and more, I'm going, I think that explains some of it, not all of it, and maybe not even a majority of it. But
well, they have a physical presence. I mean,
well, you keep hearing that they have physical craft that they've recovered, and that's coming from people like Gary Nolan.
Yeah.
So I had to readjust it, and I'm going, listen, I think all of us, including us, have just been looking for, no matter how weird it is, a one size fits all answer.
Yeah.
You know, something just, you know, here's your answer wrapped up in a bow, bam, it's done, problem solved, on to the next thing. I don't think that's the case. I think that there's as many different types of these entities there are. I think there might be as many different origin stories to them. So what do you got? You're just snickering there,
I'm just laughing because it's so funny. It's because it's with the UAPs, with Bigfoot, with Dogman, with all of these things. It seems like when you start to research these, you have such a wide open, like, what is this? What is going on here? Oh my God, it could be all of these things. And then you really hone in on some theories. You kind of whittle things down and you get down there. And then you get so deep into it that you kind of had this breakthrough, it seems like. And you end up, and it's a lot of people end up, and this is where we're at with a lot of it. You go from here down to something really honed in, and then you break through, and then it just explodes even wider than it began. And the possibilities of what these creatures could be, what these craft could be, is pretty infinite at this point. And you ask so many questions that you'll never be able to answer them all. And I think that's why we're to the point where what do you think this is?
I have no damn clue.
I got no idea, man. I feel like we could spend decades on this and still, it seems like we've not moved the needle in a way. Well, I mean, even though you and I have gathered a lot of really great evidence, it's still just
evidence of what?
Evidence of what? The puzzle is so big. You know, the puzzle is so big. We don't even have a piece.
I know that there's a what there to just say, what is it? I mean, I know that there's something there to it, but I mean, I have no clue. And
Yeah.
Paul M's got a good point. If they were completely separate species here all the time, there wouldn't be a food source available to sustain a large population. Okay. And so look at this as far as like Bigfoot and Dogman, often seen in the same area, right? People always thought that they were in competition with one another, but now we're hearing a lot of stories that make them think that all of these things are maybe working towards the same goal, have common interests. You know, Martin Grove's story, other people, Barton Nunley's story, people that we talk about here on all the time, that they seem to have some sort of like cooperation amongst them. Okay. And there's a thing called the competitive exclusion principle that talks about how two extremely similar creatures can't occupy the same niche. You know what I'm saying? That if you have two species of birds that want to inhabit the same, like, you know, part of the trees, one's going to drive the other one out, and then the other one's going to adapt to that. And I've always thought, like, so you've got two large, like, just alpha predators in an area, Sasquatch and like Dogman.
Yeah.
You know, again, if you're going to treat them as biological creatures, you would see a lot of competition going on. You would see resources start to get scarce because there's a lot of deer, but if there's as many of these damn things as people report, you know, there ain't enough deer, you know, or if there were deer, you would be finding masses of, like, you know, deer bones and all of that. So that's just one of the things is that people always go, well, you know, it's just an ape or it's just a evolved animal. Then why don't they act like any other creature that we know about, any other animal that we know about? Yeah, you occasionally hear about scat, you occasionally hear about prints, you occasionally find things that might be kills of theirs, but not to the degree that you would expect for that many large animals.
And somebody mentioned earlier in the chat that a lot of the creepypasta stuff seems like it muddies the waters a bit.
Yeah, but there's not much you can do about that. And again, just like we talked about with the mountain monsters things, there's a whole lot of people that are interested in this stuff, but there's a whole lot of people that are interested in it because it's entertaining.
Yeah.
And a lot of times people don't want to hear two people like us sit around and go, I don't know what it is, you know? I mean, not for lack of trying and not for lack of looking into it,
Yeah.
but we don't know what it is. A lot of people want to hear that somebody look them in the eye and go, here's what's up. I was in a super secret government program. They're breeding these things in vats underground. You know, a couple of them got out. They want to hear something like that because it's entertaining,
Yeah.
but it's human nature to want an answer to this stuff. It's human nature to not, people like a mystery, but there's a reason why in mystery novels, the damn thing gets solved in the end because people want it wrapped up. People don't like an ongoing mystery a lot of times, you know? So, and I think that,
and it's think about how frustrating it is. Like how many people spend their entire lives on this subject and they're going to their graves with no answers whatsoever. I mean, you and I will go to our graves with no answers.
I think that's to be expected.
I think that's pretty much where we're at.
I don't expect to.
I think the pursuit of this and just the experience and the journey of doing this kind of work is worth it.
How would you solve it? Here's your options. Freaking black limo pulls up one day next to us and goes, get in. And they when they did it to like, was it John Lear or one of the Lears where they took him into a little room and they showed him all this stuff. These are the aliens that come.
I think it was King Lear.
King Lear. But they told us all this stuff. Would you believe it? Would you believe them? No, you wouldn't believe them.
Number one, they work for the government.
Yeah, exactly. So you wouldn't believe them. And then what if we one day got, I don't even know what sort of information it could be. Maybe you could solve one small sliver of it, but that doesn't explain the rest of it.
I don't know why we're wasting our time when we could just remote view the answer.
Yeah, let's start.
Pluck it out of the universe. Philip Payne asked, to your knowledge, have there been recorded cases in large cities?
Mm-hmm. There's been.
It's not that common, but yes,
happened. It's happened. So,
and you bring up all the time, you know, they're interdimensional. Why doesn't a portal open up and one walk into Times Square?
Because again, it's got to be intelligently controlled.
Yeah.
It has to be intelligently controlled either by them or by something else.
Completely self-aware.
Something else. Then you get into the idea that maybe not everybody is wired to see these things. There's a lot of talk about that in the UAP community right now, that it takes people with a certain makeup of the brain that makes them more susceptible to having these encounters. They're noticing parallels, person after person after person. And now think about it. Most people who have a UFO encounter or a Bigfoot encounter or whatever, they're not undergoing like CAT scans and they're not having like qualified medical professionals check them out afterwards to look for this. But they're doing this with the government right now and with military and government employees.
Back to our boy, Gary Nolan.
And so what they're doing is that they're looking at these people in the government that have had encounters and they're noticing differences in their biological makeup between them and people who haven't had these encounters.
Yeah.
And if you have somebody that's on a military base, and let's say you've got 200 people that are out and about a particular evening and 50 of them see these things and the 150 of them don't. The scuttlebutt is that the 150 who didn't see it have a different brain makeup than the ones who did. So let's take that a step further. Maybe that's like this with, I've always talked about how I don't have encounters when I'm not with you. It's always when I take stuff out with you that, and I can't even say encounters, activity. But at the same token, I'm seeing this stuff when I'm with you. Okay. It's not like you're just standing there going, Joe, it's right there. And I'm going, I don't see it.
It's not like you have a filter on your brain and I do not.
But it seems like that's going on to a certain extent. But is it attracted to certain people? Because I mean, you know, you hear it all the time. Well, why is this guy having all of these Bigfoot encounters and nobody else is? What's because he's making it up? No. How about maybe he's either predisposed to seeing what's there or maybe he's attracting it.
Does that maybe connect also to like that paranormal virus theory, you know, that maybe because you're with me that you can see it?
Well,
that
I
it's
mean,
like connected in some way.
The thing that's really, I've been going down a rabbit hole with it lately because we've talked ad nauseum about the hitchhiker effect and how that seems to have almost a contagious quality to it, almost if it's transmissible from person to person to person. Well, forget Skinwalker Ranch. That's been going on far longer in the paranormal world.
Yeah.
Hauntologists, as they call themselves.
Hauntologists.
They've talked about
Don't get that mixed up with a proctologist, or you're gonna have a rough time. Hey, I'm here all week, guys.
But that's why nobody takes us seriously.
Yeah.
But these jokes. Anyway, they've talked about the contagion of poltergeists.
Yeah.
And that how it behaves contagiously. And that sometimes it's you have gone there and you've encountered it yourself, then it comes back with you. Other times it seems to maybe somebody who has poltergeist activity going on in their home has talked to somebody about it, met them one-on-one, spoken to them about it, and then all of a sudden it started happening in their house. And how the activity seems to get weaker the more people it goes through, until finally it just kind of like peters out, withers out, goes away at that point. So that's a common thing that seems to be going on. And it seems like it was noted independently, both in Skinwalker Ranch, which is more physical and UAP kind of based.
Yeah.
And then in, and it's mostly British paranormal investigators I've heard talk about it so far. But that's something that's recurring. That's happened independently, 2 different types of encounters. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just one more of those things that makes me think that there's a lot more interconnectivity with a lot of this stuff than maybe a lot of people give it credit for. So
Philip Payne asks, have you taken dowsing rods into the field? I was actually gifted a set of dowsing rods by the man himself, Dewey Edwards, the Dooster. But I'm still new to using them. So I'm kind of playing around with it and practicing with it, but I'm not a seasoned dowser, as it were.
Well, the Flock had mentioned that he had first mentioned that it's all about vibrational frequencies. And then he says, or we are all truly in a simulation. Wasn't it in the Matrix where they talked about how ghosts and werewolves and vampires were like, kind of like the agents almost? They were earlier versions of these weird little...
Did they say that?
I think, yeah, they said something about the fact that a lot of paranormal activity can be chalked up to either glitches in the Matrix or like some of the machine intelligence.
We have to watch the Matrix again. That was my first DVD I ever owned.
Oh, right on.
Was the Matrix. But yeah, that's kind of cool, actually.
Paul K says that to him, Bigfoot and Dogman working together is like coyotes and badgers working together. Well, I mean, I think that you're using natural organisms to kind of like make a parallel to, and you might be right, Paul K. I don't know, man. But I will say that a lot of we'd always heard in the LBL, oh, there's a war going on. You know, there's Sasquatch in the south and there's Dogman in the north, and there's a no man's land going across the middle, and there's just a war going on.
But that's kind of a sexy story.
Yeah, know? And it's kind of, and it's weird. And there are there's reports out there of that, of people seeing it, but I don't mean to offend anybody. It's just that when we've looked into the stories that we've looked into, at least a lot of times, for this like war that's going on, a lot of times they're, at least personally to us, not quite as believable as some of the other ones that we've heard. And the more believable stories that we're hearing nowadays, the more believable accounts seem to have a level of cooperation. And I'm not saying they're like best friends or whatever, but I do think that I think that they are associated phenomena, just like Sasquatch are with strange lights, or Sasquatch are with possible poltergeist activity. I think that it's an associated phenomena, and that leaves me with more questions than answers. And it doesn't seem like that would make sense. Do you know what I'm saying? But I mean, at least to me, I think that there's a damn good chance that that's what's going on at this point. So. Kaiju Ninja says, I don't think that every UFO is a craft piloted by an extraterrestrial. There could be many life forms of UFOs. That might explain the Bow Mountain lights and orbs and why they're called UAP. I think that there are, I don't know if you'd want to call it like living plasma, or I think that some of these anomalous lights that might not be life the way we understand it, but it's life. And then I think that, yeah, I'm coming to the realization that at least some of these things are physical, like craft. I don't necessarily think
they also seem to display an intelligence, you know?
Yeah, but I mean, the thing that stuck with me, and I just kind of like said it offhand a couple of episodes ago, is that are we starting to see them more now because artificial intelligence is starting to rear its head in our world? You know what I'm saying? Maybe these UAPs and UFOs are machine intelligences, and they ain't here to like make contact with us.
Mm-hmm.
They're here just kind of waiting around until the singularity happens, and then it's going to be one machine intelligence welcoming another machine intelligence into the fold, basically. You know what I'm
Or
saying?
you can go back to the simulation theory and that everything is already being controlled by an AI. And you know how when things start to become trending on YouTube or on the internet, the AI is going to give you more of that because it's going to have more of your attention.
Mhm.
Could that explain perhaps why there's more sightings and there's more people talking about cryptid
I
activity?
don't know.
Because we're in a simulation and it's starting to basically trend and hit the algorithm
Well, I mean,
of the simulation.
That gives you a simulation theory explanation on tulpas.
Yeah.
And that's what
Yeah.
people have always talked about
Yeah.
thought constructs.
Yeah,
Well, I
because
mean,
that's basically feeding into the simulation algorithm.
and so then the algorithm is going to give you more of what you want. It's
Yeah.
like you talk about canoes, and then your phone hears it, and then the next thing you know, you're seeing advertisements for canoes on your phone at that point. So the UAP canoe theory is how we call it.
Macaroni and cheese and $1 million.
So, yeah.
Macaroni and cheese and $1 million. Okay. That's all I want.
Steve Causey asks, with their claws for digging and intelligence, that you think they could have large underground tunnels like the Viet Cong did. I don't care who thinks it's crazy. I think that there is something to a lot of the hidden, like the hollow earth type stuff. Maybe there's not like a legit hollow earth with like a sun under there and cities and everybody's walking
Nazi
around.
base.
Yeah, Nazi base and dinosaurs and crap like that. But I do think that there is a Barton Nunley, and I made a comment one time that just stuck with me. He was like, man, if the ground was like transparent, it was made out of glass, you'd be horrified by what you saw underneath your own feet. And I'm going, yeah, you're probably right. You know, I definitely think that there is some.
That is pretty disturbing.
Yeah, exactly. But I think that there is like I said, I think that's where I'm going to right now with a lot of this stuff, that there's many answers for what's going on, that there might be some subterranean terrestrial stuff going on.
Yeah, absolutely.
There might be.
That explains a lot.
And I think that when people go, oh, well, I can't say this beyond a shadow of a doubt, but we know that if they got their hands on like a physical craft UFO, they're going to try to retro engineer it. They're going to try to figure out how it works for their own advantage at this point.
Yeah.
They'd be remiss in their duties if they didn't do that.
Are you talking about the government?
Yeah, the government.
Well, they're already doing that.
So what if they realized, hey, there are these creatures that seem to move in and out of dimensions, that have abilities far beyond our own, let's try to make one, let's try to get our hands on one, see if we can replicate it, see if we can control it.
But there's a lot of theories that's why they have these like supposed kill teams and these like capture teams that go out, that they have one. They know they exist. And
here's the deal is that a lot of times I just question how somebody has this much information, you know what I'm saying? Because obviously somebody's trying to keep it hidden, and I think that there's misinformation put out, but I think that if you were involved in stuff like this, and then you tried to be a whistleblower, you ain't gonna get too far. So, but other people that go, this is what a hint at this story. I'm not saying it's impossible. It might be very possible that things like that are going on. I don't think that explains it in totality, and I think that's why we've managed to stay so divided, because you might come up with an explanation that explains some of the cases, but because it doesn't explain all of the cases, people it's not it. I don't think there's that one size fits all answer out there anymore. I'm starting to think that that we knew the world was weird. I'm starting to think it's a lot weirder than what we even anticipated for it. So
I actually love this. Philip Payne says, when we pick up a spider in a glass and chuck it out the window, this indeed is said spider's close encounter of the third time.
Mhm.
The question is, will his friends believe him?
Well, think of a feral cat. If feral cats could talk.
Yeah.
I was just hanging out in the alleyway. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, I was thrown in this box. They took me in this weird mechanical, went far faster than we can run. They went there. I was on this table with a bright light. I lost consciousness. Woke up without my nuts. I don't know why they did this. What possible reason could they have for doing this? And the other cats would be just going, Bull. It's not true.
Show him your scar, Twinkie.
Yes, you got that from,
You fell in a dumpster.
you fell in a dumpster and lost your testicles, which is apparently possible, I guess. So anyway.
Joe is a hitchhiker.
All right, here's another one. Paul's on fire tonight, spitting fire. If they're interdimensional, why the regional traits, though? Yeti, Bigfoot, skunk ape, Yowie, Southeast Asia are all different in size and habit. Those are regional characteristics. Would a visitor have those? That's a damn good question. I don't know. I will say this, though, that a lot of the data that we all have to work with is corrupted. A lot of the data, as far as modern reports go, it's corrupted. And maybe there are cases that are outside of the norm that people hear and they go, well, that's not what a Yowie looks like. So, I mean, I've heard people who have been on nationally syndicated Bigfoot television shows just looking at somebody and going, you're lying because that's not how Bigfoot behave. So instantly what might have been a legit encounter is just tossed in the round file because it doesn't fit those criteria. But you are right. Those stereotypes happen for a reason in those particular areas. It seems that in the South, creatures are smaller. I mean, that footprint we found was big, but it wasn't huge. It wasn't as big as like people report in the Pacific Northwest and up in Canada and all that. And you have...
Well, in regions like that, through the ages, you were more likely to have megafauna in places like that anyway.
Well, yeah, but you've got Bergman's rule, which is a biological rule that the further like north a creature is and the colder the habitat, the larger they are.
Yeah.
But I mean, Pacific Northwest ain't the Arctic. You know what I'm saying? It's not that cold.
It was at one time.
It was at one time, but here's the deal. It was, most of North America was under a sheet of ice at one point.
Yeah.
So, I mean, but that's a good point that it doesn't explain for those. So what's going on here? Why do you have these weird one-off things like with Dogman, that weird Anubis type creature that's seen by people?
Yeah.
Why do you see some people like the gentleman that that was fly fishing, who's not into this stuff at all?
No.
And just saw a giant black wolf and it just looked
upright,
at him and
like standing like a man.
Standing like a man and then went off.
Yeah.
And he's baffled by it. He's dumbfounded by that. And that sounds a lot different than the Anubis types. That sounds a lot different than the ones that just sound like flat out werewolves. Why all this difference and why is it regional sometimes? Again, I think that's why people we expect it to follow rules and it doesn't follow the rules we expect.
Not even just like rules, but our rules that we set down.
Yeah, it's nuts. So
as feeble little ants on this planet. I'm trying to go through the chat. I was reading about you guys commenting about the proctologist comment. Oh gosh. Dooster thinks we got to raffle off the banner of me, and I was like, absolutely not. Nobody's getting their hands.
She loves that damn thing, man.
Nobody's getting their hands on my banner. Watch, we'll come back from the bathroom and somebody has
stolen the banner. So
yeah, don't get any ideas.
Stephen Taylor's got a good idea.
I will track you down.
What if these creatures are indifferent to each other, but they use each other for their own purposes? Well, in Martin Grove's account, it sounded like the let's just call them Sasquatch creatures were calling the shots. You know what I'm saying? Seemed like there was some sort of, or that was the impression kind of that a lot of people walk away with. So what if they're not related at all, but they just coexist and sometimes there's conflict and other times they just kind of like ignore each other? What if sometimes I don't know, man. Like I said, again, I think
there's instances of that in the known animal kingdom.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, there's sympathetic like relationships that happen on there, like some sort of symbiosis. But I just think that it was John Keel that said that a lot of times, and I think Jacques Vallée had kind of echoed it as well, that talking about the UFO phenomenon, that sometimes it kind of armors itself in like ridiculousness to keep people from believing it. Okay. He goes, it's almost like sometimes this stuff's done on purpose. Now, this is not necessarily ridiculousness, but sometimes that trickster element comes into effect. It armors itself in the illogical.
It's so wild, nobody will believe you.
Because we're used to the logical world where cause and effect, and it's just, and then it has to follow certain rules. Otherwise, it's impossible. And a lot of this stuff, I think the only constant is just chaos with it, that it just doesn't follow any set of rules to it. And I think that's what throws people off, whether they just hear about it and they hear a story and they go, well, that doesn't make sense. And then they just go, not real, it doesn't make sense. People like us who spend a huge amount of time on it still going, still doesn't make sense, you know? So I don't know. Getting pretty deep tonight.
We are.
Getting pretty deep. Heck, I thought we didn't have anything to talk about. But
Raj Morris says, what about cow mutilation?
I'm into that now.
I know,
I'm deep
he's
into
very
that now.
much into cow mutilation.
Deep into that now.
Not doing it, but he's like into it. Go ahead.
Not me. No, I've never
You've never mutilated a
never
cow.
mutilated
Never,
a cow,
not him.
so,
Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Finish what you were saying.
I don't know. I was just going to bring up that, we were discussing this. I think we discussed it last week when it came to cow mutilation, that there's a lot of evidence left behind at the scene that you think that sometimes maybe if there's like a needle left at the scene, that it's part of the trickster element, maybe throwing in red herrings.
Or is it legit left?
Is it legit left? Because maybe there are government entities that are coming and checking for mad cow disease or, doing some kind of study or something like that.
Colm Kelleher, the guy that was involved with Skinwalker Ranch and is involved with all the UAP stuff now, wrote a book called Brain Trust. And he talks about the hidden connection between mad cow disease and the prions that are involved with it, and like Alzheimer's and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So basically looking at the connections on that, using real world science, and these are real conditions and this really happens. But then he's talking about the cattle mutilation phenomenon and how there are some that look as if legit dudes on black helicopters came in, chopped up some dude's cow, took samples back to the lab, and it's just people doing it.
Yeah.
Why though? Why didn't they just go buy the cow?
Yeah.
It would have been cheaper to just go buy the damn thing and then take it away, do whatever they want you to.
Well, part of the problem with that is if you do have a member of your herd that is infected with mad cow disease and the farmer is maybe suspicious of that, they will dispose of it. So if they contact the farmer and say, we need one of your cows, we need to test one of your cows.
Okay.
So if they do come up positive for mad cow disease, that whole herd has to be destroyed. That will reduce
the farmer. So you think the farmers are kind of doing some culling to like make people think they don't have mad cow in there?
They could, yes. But
look at the brain on Jesse. That's good. Damn.
Not a mad cow here, baby.
Yeah.
But so maybe these government entities are coming in and doing it on the fly underneath the cover of darkness.
So that way they know that they have a legit
sample.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, he thinks that that's going on, but then he goes in. There's other cases too that are not people in helicopters coming and doing it, and it's not done with tools that we can identify.
It's surgical precision, cauterized wounds,
like a laser precision, and he's just going that and what's cool is when they were doing NIDS and they had that government grant, they could be on the ground sometimes within 6 hours of these being reported, of these happening. So they actually had a doctor of veterinary medicine on staff that specialized in autopsy. I think it's called necropsies. I don't know. There's a different term for veterinarian procedures for it, but let's just call them autopsies. And that he would look at it and he'd go, no, he'd go, no human. No human did this. You know what I'm saying? That he goes, they had a state of the art, veterinarian, surgical theater. And he's like going, I could not replicate this here. So he was going, there's two different phenomenon that are extremely similar to one another, but they're different.
Yeah.
And that maybe one is using the other to try to stay hidden. Okay. Maybe it's vice versa. Maybe the government started off doing this stuff and then the phenomenon started to mimic it somehow.
Yeah.
Okay. Or maybe the phenomenon was doing it and the government was going, we need to get some cow samples to see what they're looking for.
Yeah.
We don't want people to know why. So we'll do this. We'll try to emulate what they do. So yeah, I definitely think that.
Or we can go to the default answer of everything, or it's all of the above.
Yeah, that's what I think. I think that there's more than one type of thing going on there. I mean, it's just the more I do this, I'm just starting to come to the point, and maybe it sounds like a lazy way to think on it, but it's really not, because it's been a lot of time and effort and thought that's gone into this. But I'm just going. The prevailing thought process is that somebody goes, I saw something in the woods and it behaved like you would expect a primate to behave.
Right.
It was eating. It was completely fish blood. It just looked like an almost ape-like. That's what happened to me. Well, not me, but this person, this is what happened to me. I know that what I saw. So then when somebody else goes, well, I saw this thing and it like mind spoke to me and it did this. And the person is just going full of crap.
Yeah.
Because I saw one and this is what I saw.
Actually, I'm going to throw up Stephen Taylor's comment while you're talking about this. Stephen Taylor says, I think we must remember that the regional traits are observer testimony and are subjective.
Well, that's exactly what I'm talking about right now.
Yes.
It's observer. So your truth, speak my truth. Your truth is you did see something that behaved in an animal-like fashion that looked like an undiscovered primate.
Right.
However, maybe that person did have a more woo-like experience. Maybe you encountered two separate things that on the face of it look very, very similar, but when you scratch the surface, they're completely different. Why does just because your weird thing happened means that somebody else's weird thing didn't happen?
Yeah.
Okay. This weird filter that we put in that,
that you'll accept things to hear the boggle threshold.
Yeah, but it's not even
like
that. But like, I'll accept this brand of weirdness, but this brand of weirdness is just crazy.
Off limits.
Yeah, it's just off limits.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, Ultra is saying $200 for whoever brings me that banner. That banner cost me more than $200, buddy.
How much did you spend on that damn banner?
Don't ask.
So, all right.
Don't ask. Promotional materials are not cheap, friends. Please don't do anything to my banner.
The conversation in here is
it's got to go back up into the bedroom after we're done. Oh, gosh. We're going through the chat right now. Oh,
just watching you guys go back and forth.
I will say this. He's going through the chat right now. I'm going to say, take a moment right now out of your day watching this to hit the like button and make sure you are still subscribed. You have the notification on, because when we go to Monster Fest this weekend, this Saturday, we are going to do live streams from Monster Fest. So make sure you are tuned in and ready. Make sure you are tuned in, friends, and ready for that.
You won't want to miss it. Maybe we'll get Matt Money. Is Matt Moneymaker there? Matt Moneymaker's not there.
No, he's not.
Maybe we'll sneak Matt Moneymaker in and get him drunk. And get
like
him on
under
camera.
your coat or something?
Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
It's going to be two Matt Moneymakers. Matt Moneymakers in a trench
coat. Yeah, it won't be a real tall guy. It's two Matt Moneymakers in a trench coat, wearing a hat. So, oh God, Jesus.
Oh, I'm fighting not saying what I want to say.
Yeah, don't say that.
No,
I know exactly what you want to say.
Oh,
that's fresh popped in, guys. We're insanely behind.
We are behind.
We didn't do a roll call because we had so many people in here earlier, but
we're kind of rambling at each other.
Yeah.
But that's what this is fun. This is fun. This is a great show. I'm really enjoying this.
I think I'm doing an amazing job.
Yeah.
Carrying the damn
2.5 stars.
Yeah. So, Kaiju Ninja, we should come up with a new name other than Dogman. There's got to be a dog woman too. That's the other thing, is that it's pretty obvious in the anatomy when you're looking at a male dog or a female dog, especially if the female dog has had pups, correct?
Correct.
Can I say teats?
Engorged teats. I think is where you're going.
Can I say engorged teats on YouTube?
You can say engorged teats.
Did the channel just die?
Yeah.
But so it's pretty visibly obvious. You know what I'm saying? It's obvious on Patty that it was a female. Okay. If Patty is real, that it was a female. Seems like it would be 8 times as obvious. Do they have 8? 6? 8? Let's go with 8.
I don't know.
8 times is, for my analogy, let's go with 8. It would be 8 times more obvious that was a female Dogman that you were seeing.
Right.
And I honestly, I'm sure somebody can correct me. Has there been a really good detailed report of a female dog person? I don't know if there has been. So
I don't know either.
If I have read it, it didn't stick with me. So,
Lady Wolf said necropsy. Is it necropsy for an animal?
Mm-hmm. Is that what it is?
Necropsy?
Huh?
Yes. That's what she
Okay,
said.
so I was right. Of course I'm right. I'm doing great on the show. I'm doing a hell of a job. All right.
Hell of a job.
Sam Burton says, some guys were talking about cattle mutilation at church last week. Well, I mean, there was that story not too long ago from Texas that actually made it into and I got to
See, now if we're in a simulation and the AI algorithm that is working on the simulation, now we're going to have more cow mutilations since it's gaining in popularity.
I went to type in Texas cattle mutilation, and I typed in Texas cattle MU, and it came up with Texas cattle murders.
Yeah.
They're calling them murders. But the appropriately named so the cops have a thing called Operation Animal Mutilation.
It's not very covert.
It's not very covert, but yeah, I mean, I saw that thing on Facebook of all things. I saw that somebody had posted a story. Actually, they had posted a link to the police department's, to the sheriff's department's Facebook page, and it was Madison County, Texas. And I thought that it was a fake Facebook page, like a parody account. And then I looked at it and I'm like, nope, it's real. They're legit talking about it nowadays. So what have I done? There we go.
Susan C. said, she said that there have been several incidents of cattle mutilation in Texas and Washington. LMH did a show on it last Wednesday.
I don't know who LMH is.
I don't either. I don't know who LMH is. But yeah, I guess it's coming up in the conscious. You know what I'm waiting for?
What are you waiting for?
I'm waiting for the second round of the Satanic Panic. Because we're going back to cattle mutilation now. Something else is going to come.
Cyclical, man. Yeah,
something else is going to come around
yeah.
because like cattle mutilation was pretty big in the 90s.
I don't care what anybody says.
Okay.
Because here's where I'm at with it.
I'm waiting for round 2 of Satanic Panic.
Because I think a lot of that Satanic Panic stuff was real.
I do too.
I think a lot of that Satanic
there were
Panic.
It's a lot of that stuff where it's so crazy. It's so crazy. It sounds made up.
You trust the improbability of it to be your protection. But I think that a lot of that Satanic Panic stuff legit happened.
Yeah.
And I think that when people go, oh, it's implanted memories and it's this and it's this, and it was just a national panic. I'm sure it was exaggerated some, but that doesn't mean that the core root of it didn't happen. You know what I'm saying? So I'm positive that stuff happened. I refuse to believe that it didn't. So.
Make sure you hit that like button, guys.
Hit that like button.
We're going through the chat right now, trying to catch up. We've kind of been rambling. You guys are really wilding out in the chat. That's
you guys are going crazy. Calm down. Y'all need to calm down.
No,
everybody needs to calm down.
No, get wilder. This is great. MK Ultra. Spontaneous human combustion needs to make a comeback.
That'll be next. So, all right. So in 2023, we're doing cattle mutilation. 2024, I got that pinned in for Satanic Panic. Maybe around 2025, 2026, we'll get to spontaneous human combustion.
We're going to go see Ghost in August. So let's get the Satanic Panic after we get done with our Ghost concert. Oh, Linda Moulton Howe is LMH.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Now, Linda Moulton Howe is the other big cattle mutilation person.
Yeah. Well, I mean, she's the cattle mutilation person.
I mean, other than Colin Kelleher.
He wrote a book on it. I think but I mean, she's like the one who, that's like her, that's her jam. That's her jam. She just goes, that's what she does. And Damien K is in here from Ireland. Hello, Damien. How are you, sir? Hopefully you're still in the chat.
Grace W follows up on the Satanic Panic. I think there was a cause for Satanic Panic, and there still is.
I'm going to paraphrase because I'm too lazy to Google it right now. But one of the cases, and I don't know where or when, but one of the cases, the kids had just shockingly similar stories.
Yeah.
And the thing that they used to kind of like dismiss the thing was they took us in these tunnels, like underground, underneath where like this daycare center was. And that's where they did this, and they did this and this, and all the typical, like, you know, satanic cult tropes. And they were going, well, that's crazy talk. There's no tunnels underneath here. And the kids like stuck with their story. And like none of them recanted it, even though they were told, oh, that was just, you know, one kid made it up. And over the course of the investigation, you had false memories implanted. And they ended up going back to this area with like somebody doing ground penetrating radar. And the guy's using his ground penetrating radar. And he goes, all right, well, I don't know what to tell you, because what I'm picking up on here is it looks like there's tunnels filled with gravel and debris underneath here. And then it turned out that they were going, well, they did supposedly, some company bought like a Burger King next door and demolished it while all this was going on. We always thought that was kind of weird. And they were thinking that that demolition was cover for them to
go in there and fill in the tunnels.
Fill in the tunnels at that point. And the guy's going, well, and then if anything happened after that, it never really you saw the light of day.
And there's an insane amount of connections with the Franklin cover up as well. Yeah. What's weird is you and I just finished we talked about this last week. I know we did. We just finished watching first season of True Detective.
Our one foray into like actual television.
Again.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. We watched the first season of True Detective again. Because it's one of the greatest seasons of television that was ever produced. But this connects to that. Like this connects to it too.
Mm-hmm.
It's just weird how everything kind of lines up with what we're talking about. Brian Wigful, knife check.
Oh.
I've been playing with a knife that's on the table. I've been playing with a Kershaw Knockout. But in my pocket, I have another knife.
Multiple knives on the table. We're not weird at all.
Yeah. I have a Spyderco Matriarch 2. So Joe actually got me this for my birthday the first year we dated.
We dated, yeah.
Yep. So it's a wicked little slicer. What do you have, Joe?
I'm carrying a non-expensive Grow. I don't even know what the model number it is. They're just a Chinese company. I know it's a Chinese knife. I wanted like a real big beefy folder because a lot of times when we're going out, if I'm wearing like a waist pack, like a waist belt for my backpack, I can't wear a sheath knife. It gets in the way, but I didn't want to carry like a little pocket knife. So I was looking at a company called Grayman, and they have a knife called the Satu, but it's like $500. It's a titanium frame lock that basically looks like this. And I found this just to try it out to see if I liked it or not. And then decided I didn't want to carry a frame lock in the woods, but I like the knife. It's like oversized. It almost looks like those cartoon pistols that you see in like Tom and Jerry, where it's like 10 times the size. That's what this knife always looked like. It looked like a cartoon knife. It's like comically oversized. So
I always thought that the what is it? The starts with an M. Those ridiculously big knives.
I don't
know. They're ridiculously expensive. They're huge.
Wait, I don't know what you're talking about.
They're folders. They had the strippers at Blade Show.
Oh,
what is that?
God damn it!
They had strippers at their booth at Blade Show. They had all those strippers like walking around with knives. And then we picked up
Medford,
and then we picked up one of the knives, and the lock just completely failed.
Garbage knife, man.
And the knife just swung like that.
It's like they packed it in sand before they took it.
That's why they needed the strippers to.
Jaeger 71's got a good point. A lot of good bands came out of Satanic Panic.
That's true. Dang.
So it's good. We have a music renaissance. So
the Deuster has a cool little tidbit here. He says that it's possible that Captain Thomas Mantell's 2 grandsons will be at Monster Fest.
Thomas Mantell was the only pilot that we know of for sure that was killed by a UFO.
Yeah.
Air National Guardsman. So
very cool that they would come to Monster.
All right, Philip Payne's got a good one here. And this is something, I'm glad you brought this up. Because a lot of people don't know about it.
I know, but I'm just like, I'm so glad you brought this up.
I'm really glad you brought this up. Back in the 90s, there was something going on in Great Britain where they were literally having they called them phantom social workers. These women would show up to people's houses and like knock on the door and, hi, I'm so-and-so with whatever British agency is basically their version of like the Department of, DFACS, Department of Family and Children Services. And they would go in and ask a lot of questions. And Philip, you can possibly remind me, but I remember reading stories about where they would try to take custody of the child, to say, we're here to take custody of your kid and da-da-da-da-da. And there's been a complaint and everything's going to be okay. We'll work it out, but we just need to take your child. Okay. For right now. And I don't know, I'd never heard of a case where that actually happened, because a lot of times people would go, who are you with again? I need to call somebody before I turn my 3-year-old over to you.
Yeah.
And they would like run out the door. And this happened repeatedly. There was a rash of this that happened. These phantom, and they could never figure it out. And the physical descriptions were different. It was more than one, you know. There were several differing physical descriptions of women trying to do this, basically going in, posing as social workers and trying to leave with the kids.
Basically canvassing for victims.
Yeah, but he's got a great thing. It was a women in black. It had elements of like the men in black phenomenon and the satanic panic phenomenon.
I've never heard of this.
Yet few people have.
Wow.
But this happened for a while. This was a rash of sightings in Britain for a while, and people became extremely paranoid about it. Okay, but now here's something I didn't know because I just Googled it real quick, but I guess that there was some follow-on cases in the United States on this. But two women, and I didn't know there was two women, one or two women, okay, in their late 20s to early 30s who were dressed professionally. They would just basically go, they would come in, that they would go, that there had been allegations of sexual abuse, and that they said that they would act just weird, that their mannerisms would be off-putting, laugh at inappropriate times, and just seemed very strange, very much like the Men in Black often do.
Yeah.
But yeah, we need to, actually, that would be a great show to do.
Dark Dive.
Yeah, Phantom Social Workers. I hadn't thought about that in a while.
There's a couple of things I can think of off the top of my head that would actually go well with that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm gonna write that down on my little show notes here. Not today, but no. Not today. Saban says your closest case study of true Luciferianism would be to look at politics on a global scale, not meant to be tongue in cheek.
You got to watch out because you mentioned the C word last week, and we just started losing subscribers like that afterwards. You said it like jokingly. We can't talk about how like there's national politicians like getting infusions.
You
like,
yelled at me. Don't even act like you're gonna
I
hit
don't
towards
care
it.
anymore.
I don't care.
I don't care anymore.
All right, I'm making a note here. You work. All right, here we go. There.
I guess shortly after our knife drop, Stingray just goes, a nail puller is my favorite weapon. Stingray's that weird dude at the bar that just gives you a little factoid, you know.
No, when you say
you ever killed a guy
puller?
with a nail puller?
Say like a nail puller, like you pull nails out of stuff, or you got like a set of like pliers that you're pulling nails out of fingers
I
with?
think both for Stingray. I think Stingray probably has one in each hand.
A double duty.
He has like a claw hammer in one hand and then a set of pliers in the other one. He bashes you in the head and then he pulls the nails. He pulls the nails both ways.
Yes.
So there you go.
Very good.
Just cracked myself up a little bit. Excuse me. So
Beat him to death with a claw hammer. Oh.
Somebody's talking about the cold steel scimitar. That's him. Jesse's got a cold steel scimitar.
I do.
I don't know where it's at right now.
It's in the knife box. The knife box number 3.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We're still not unpacked.
Yeah. Grace W goes, if you need strippers to sell your knives, then
Yeah. I guess that's true. That is true. They're just big, ugly thing. Not the strippers. The strippers
were
nice
quite
looking.
attractive.
They were quite attractive.
They were
The
quite
knives were ugly.
As far as like blade show strippers go,
They were great.
Not bad, you know. Not
Two
bad.
thumbs up for
Two
the
thumbs up
strippers.
for the strippers. But
Two
knives,
thumbs down for the knives.
Yeah, knives didn't fucking do it for me. Did not do it for me. At all.
Strippers were great.
All right, let's get serious. We're branching off too much. But
Machete. Paul M. Now I want to go to Blade Show.
yeah.
Oh. We're going to Monster Fest where the exotic Ohio strippers are.
So James Bogg has got something here that's on a completely serious note. He goes, the only two that I've heard of that have linked child abuse in this phenomenon. We've talked about it on here before, but we kind of fell backwards into all of that. We were investigating an area where we were finding activity. I don't even know if we found some Sasquatch activity, but there was other stuff too.
Mm-hmm.
We couldn't tell what it was. And then we saw like weird lights and other stuff like that. Well, the activity just died one day. It was like something flicked a switch and it never came back. So we started to kind of basically just circled out. We just went in ever increasing circles looking for just areas that just seemed like they had something going on. And we came across that area that we've been going to in North Georgia. And
if you watch our videos, it's the place where we have gotten most of our footage from
most of our
over
crazy
the
stuff.
past year and a half. And in our videos, we talk about this cult. So that's what we're referring to.
We stumbled across other people that had been up there online and contacting them, and without telling them what we do, we just went, hey, we noticed you had left some notes up there, which is weird. You're putting these notes on trees. What's going on? We found, and then they start telling us about all the supernatural stuff that's going on up there. And they were up there looking into wilderness therapy camps. Somebody that they knew had been basically put in one against their will and was not able to leave. And then they uncovered ritualistic child abuse that was going on in these things with occult like elements to it. And then we're going, well, this is where we're finding all this other weird stuff at, and then they were the ones who originally planted that seed with us. And then the more we went up there, we started realizing, hey, some of this weird stuff that we're finding is not like cryptid related, like that tree triangle thing we found. I don't think that's like Sasquatch or cryptid or anything like that. I think
and we never
there's
indicated
stone circles right there. That's ritualistic. That's leftover stuff from some sort of human ritual that took place there.
Yes.
And that's what we don't understand is there an are they associated at all? Or are they just two completely separate things that happen to be taking place in the same area? It's the same indefinable element about that area that drew them there. And it could be as simple as that it's secluded.
Yeah.
And it's remote and nobody goes there.
It's a crime of opportunity, I guess.
And so they went there because it was a convenient place for them, and there just so happened to be other activity going on. Or is it some sort of association? Is what they're doing making the activity stronger? And that's what we kind of lean towards, that the human activity up there is strengthening the inhuman activity.
Or were these dark, disturbed people brought to this place by some sort of attraction?
Did they feel a draw there? Yeah. So it's weird, and it's kind of, I know that's not for everybody, but it's what we experienced. It's what we came across.
It's kind of, you just kind of observe and report at this point.
And it was a complete kind of like left turn from what we were doing before, but it's what's going on there.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It's just what's happening. And trust me, we didn't want to be we didn't want to be the crazy cult people. But
what's wild is we've got all this cult activity, cult activity. That's the exact area where we got the thing swinging from tree to tree. So explain all that to me.
And we got the light that we're not sure if it was a portal or a UAP with the figures around it. We found small footprints.
Are they doing something up there and it's opening this door and letting something through?
Yeah. I mean,
that sounds so crazy, doesn't it?
It sounds crazy. And I will have told people before, I wish we had just found a lot of Sasquatch activity, and we were like
that would have been great.
The Sasquatch people, and we were just going, here are these prints we found. Oh, listen to this. We heard this weird howl.
Yeah.
Wow, we're gonna leave some marbles out and then see what we've got stacked up pine cones when we come back.
Marbles.
That would appeal to more people. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We would have a bigger channel.
We would have a bigger
We'd have a bigger channel, and we would probably not be such a third rail to a lot of people. But that's what we came across. And that's what
we had to draw the Uno card that has find occult activity.
I know, right? But I mean, that's what we found. And it's like, there's a few other people that have talked about it. We've heard there was that guy that was on what's that show, Monster 911. He actually mentioned us by name because he had said, because somebody the host went, well, I'm researching cryptids and I've never come across this. And he goes, you're not the only person out here doing this, and other people have found it. And there's this group called Hellbent Holler. Carolinas.
Was he like a priest or a preacher?
He was a preacher or something like that.
And he did mention us because
he's come across the same stuff.
He's seen the same stuff.
And again,
Grace W says that's the same place where the cult activity and the flyers. I didn't realize that was the crazy Georgia.
Yeah, that's all within and there's so much other stuff that goes on there. Before this group started operating in there, what is it? The Children of the Living Light had a small gathering there, and people went missing and people died. And there were other violent crimes that took place. It was
very bad. It went off the rails. But yeah.
I just completely phased on this.
Don't say the name of the serial killer, please.
Yeah, there was a serial killer that operated in this area because then it was hid out up there for a while.
Yeah.
When they didn't know they were looking for him specifically, but after one of the attacks, there was a manhunt, and supposedly he hid out up there for a while. And we've heard rumors that he possibly was responsible for disappearances up there.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of weird
There's another
stuff.
thing too. There was a man that was up there fishing. He was from the local area, and he was up there fishing, and his family reported him missing because he didn't come home when he was supposed to come home. They found his tent, and it had been like ripped into, just like that tent
we found in the LBL.
In the LBL.
And the explanation was, well, maybe it got hot,
and he cut it to vent it. Like,
Yeah.
Are you in your tent hot and you have a tent? I mean, this happened in the late 80s. You're not going to take your tent and cut it open to vent your tent. That's insane. They never found a trace of this guy.
Gone without a trace.
Yeah, and the search was called off
after like 2 days.
2 or 3 days. The search was called off, and it
by
wasn't
state authorities.
Quit interrupting.
Sorry,
God. But it was not for inclement weather or anything like that. They just cut it off after 2 or 3 days for no reason at all. So I went through all of these newspaper articles about the whole thing, and there's no reason given whatsoever. So I'm trying to track down his family right now and maybe see if I can get an interview with them, because I'm fascinated with this case because it's so similar to what we were finding in the LDL. Like, it's the same MO. The tent was ripped into, and these people are just gone without a trace. Their stuff is still there.
And there's no social media back then. So that basically when the newspapers dropped it,
yeah,
they have no avenue to keep it in, because nowadays you could start up a Facebook page, you could go on the podcasts, you could do all sorts of stuff. But there, if the
local media, the newspaper drops it, it's gone. And the only people is just a family left as a shell without their loved one.
Let's focus on something positive. James Boggs, $10.
Thank you, James.
Thanks to you, James Boggs. Bringing a ray of sunshine into this dreary conversation that we did.
I didn't mean to yell at you, but you're finishing my sentence.
Grace, I saw the email. We have not watched that yet. Grace found a video on Brett and Solon's channel, because I guess somebody put those videos back up after they were taken down, of a tree jumping. I would actually try to play it right now, but I don't know what the rules are for playing another YouTube channel on yours. If we would all of a sudden owe like Brent and Solon's descendants like the $10 that we just got. You know what I'm saying? We got to cut them a check. So.
Not today. Saban has a really good point here. I mean, look at the geological makeup of North Georgia. Then look that even though it's a prime territory for real estate, might not be much of a coincidence that's still undeveloped. So there are people moving into the area, but not a lot.
And it's very concentrated.
They're not building like developments out there. They're not like over near where we moved from. They're cutting down everything and putting in just tracts of housing. But this area is beautiful. It's nice. It's gorgeous, but they're not like cutting down huge swaths of land to put up houses or anything.
They're putting in
a good
stuff,
point.
But it's very like centralized.
Yeah.
You see a lot of going, but then outside of that, you don't see very much of it. So Brian Wickful wanted to know, refresh my memory, did you guys ever go back to where you found that climbing gear thrown way up in that tree? A couple of things have happened there, and we've been back, but we pretty much all of our attention went on to the area where we had that weird tree that we were finding the quartz around the bottom of it. And we caught those. That's fairly close to where we caught those like disembodied eyes that we found behind you that time that showed up on like the night vision camera. Well, we were focused on that. And then we had that, I guess I'm just called the portal sighting or whatever, which was a ways from that. And then we got focused on that area. So we have not been back, although that area with the climbing gear.
As the crow flies, the area where the climbing gear is and the area where we've gotten all of this footage recently is less than 3 miles.
Yeah, it's close.
So they're very close. Like as the crow flies, very close.
Very close. But we haven't been to that exact spot again in a while. So Paul M says that he's seen signs of occult activity all over Georgia. We've been in areas where you see stuff and it's obvious that these are just like stoner rural metalheads. Do you know what I'm saying? It's just not. And then we've been other places where it seemed more like sophisticated and it seems more like real. And that's one of the things they talk about that doesn't get a lot of I mentioned, but in the Beast of Bray Road stuff, let's give Seth Breedlove a plug here, because in that Small Town Monsters documentary on the Beast of Bray Road, where they interview the animal control officer, the guy who had that folder labeled werewolf, he talks about how there were areas up there near where all these sightings happened where there was satanic rituals or some sort of occult rituals going on. And he basically says somewhat the same thing. These weren't kids messing around. These were adults. Some of them were fairly well off. Some of them came in from outside. You know, there were people coming from different parts of the country to congregate here and do these rituals. And then we were seeing this. So he's convinced it's like demonic.
Yeah.
The whole thing's demonic.
So,
but
following up, I mean, Sam Burton, occult activity is all over North Georgia mountains. Creeps me out. It's one of the reasons I always have Ace with me. Following up on that, Melody says voodoo was practiced in Georgia in the early 70s.
So for everybody who always just, again, if you live in an urbanized environment and a lot of this stuff just seems like entertaining to you and interesting, but it doesn't seem real. And you go, there's no way that that would really happen. There's no way that there's families that practice intergenerational worship of something, you know, and that's what goes on. That's what goes on. It just happens. And I mean, it's, you can go, not in this day and age and not in 21st century America. Yeah, it does. And it's not just in the rural areas either, but I think that's where they go to because they can operate more openly without being discovered.
Yeah.
So,
thank you, Teresa Wilkins, for that $9.99 super sticker. We really appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you, madam. Goshawk has good advice for you. Happy wife, happy life.
Thanks, Goshawk.
Yeah, no problem.
Hope you're doing well, buddy. So, yeah, MK Ultra's talking about this. If anybody cut his tent, his Lansham 1 tent, and knowing MK Ultra, that's probably some $10,000 tent. But yeah, you don't just like, tents are not usually disposable items. You know what I'm saying?
It was in the mid 80s too. It's not like you can go. I mean, you couldn't just go to like Walmart in the mid 80s.
I mean, you could buy them, but I'm just saying that it's not something you just
could buy them, but it's not something that's like, oh, I'm a little hot. Let me cut my tent open. That's just strange behavior, and what a strange explanation for what happened. That's not the only missing person in that area, too. There was a guy that went out with his dog, and he went missing. And his dog, they found his dog wandering the road, and he was found deep in the woods, dead.
Check out this comment.
What?
Oh, what am I doing? No.
We might need to adjust the camera because with these comments, look at us.
I know, look at us. We're all cut off, man.
Okay, I'll read it.
Yeah, because I'm going to get...
Susan C. says, Stu Peters did a documentary called These Little Ones, and one thing discussed is satanic cults. The ladies interviewed were from a satanic cult in Georgia. They have to go into the woods to do some stuff. North Georgia is also home to Corpsewood Manor. You know, those were practicing Satanists, and there was a grisly murder involved in that. You want to add that to our list?
Yeah.
You reading about it?
I'm afraid to read Stu Peters' biography.
Okay.
I don't know who Stu Peters is. I'd never heard the name before. So I did a quick Google to see this documentary. And I'm just going to read it. Screw it.
I was about to say, what's happening here? We got a lot of dead air.
Wikipedia. Stu Peters is an American far-right online personality and former bounty hunter. He is known for promoting COVID-19 misinformation and conspiracy theories. After high school, Peters moved from Minnesota to Los Angeles, Florida, and New York while pursuing a career as a rapper named Focus.
What?
Yes, awesome. Yeah.
This is crazy.
Yeah. Then so then check it out. He was associated with Jesse Ventura.
Okay.
Yeah. So, all right. Man, hold on. He was a teen heartthrob for a while. He was I don't know. This is crazy. This is crazy biography. This is an insane biography. Bounty. He's got a bounty hunting section here. This is just his Wikipedia thing.
All right.
Damn right. All right. Well,
political involvement, personal life.
He's been involved in fatal shootouts.
Wow. A life well lived.
This is crazy. All right. So anyway, I don't know who this dude is, but I'm checking him out now. Focus.
MK Ultra has a little piece here. Just talking to my trail club, there's been an increase in cleaning up occult type stuff more often on the trail.
If you guys don't know who MK Ultra is, he has a YouTube channel that covers it. The stated goal.
The stated goal of
the
channel.
YouTube channel is to cover hiking and gear reviews.
Yeah.
That ain't what happens all the time, unfortunately.
No.
We've got time travel, all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
So anyway.
But it's a good watch.
It's a good watch. And he does trail maintenance in his area. I don't know. Has he mentioned where he's at?
I don't
I'm
know.
not going to dox him.
He does videos from around the Uwari.
Around the Uwari. So yeah, but he says that there's been occult type stuff there. So there you go.
Yeah. Stingray 1975. Thank you, sir, for that $20. He says, "What about the abandoned campground in LBL?"
Well, we found two, and you'll see this footage. But we went back to and we live streamed from there.
Yeah.
I've never watched that live stream, so I don't know how much of it came out. But we live streamed from the spot of the original abandoned campground we found. And here's what's weird. All right, so I'm gonna throw this theory on you guys. Certain areas we go into and we find stuff and we put it up and then it disappears afterwards, like the bones at Station 16. That's happened a couple times now.
Yeah.
Because that's an identifiable landmark. The tent was still there because I don't think it's not identifiable by looking at it where it's at to get rid of it.
And the tent, there's no like trail to it. And
no,
then
we're just cutting through the brush.
Then we found another tent.
So we go there and we start looking around. And if you remember correctly, that first one we found, we then find what looks to be an old family cemetery near there where the stones are really weathered down. And that's where Jesse first saw that thing that we've seen there a couple times. And I guess we need to kind of come up with a name for that thing. I don't even know what you'd call it. It doesn't look like a Bigfoot. It doesn't look like a Dogman. Everybody's always like, oh, you guys saw like a Dogman 3 times up there. No, we saw something in the thermal, but what we saw with our naked eye 3 times, I would not describe that as a Dogman, at least what I saw. Would you?
No.
No. Didn't have the ears. It didn't appear to have a snout, but so we again what we generally do is we'll find an area like that and we'll just start circling out, ever widening circles to see what we find. So we're doing that. And we find another abandoned tent. Now, we originally thought that first abandoned tent was maybe a hunter or something like that had been up there. And that's where we found the claw marks on the tree, the rip in the door, and then the slit along the bottom towards the rear of the tent that we didn't know what that was. And then somebody went, it almost looks as if somebody cut their way out. Something was coming in the front. They cut the back, tried to escape out like that. We thought it was a hunter. But the second abandoned tent we found had like children's clothing inside of it. It had like dishware, like not like camping utensils, like dishes like you'd have at your house and random stuff. And that's when we realized that these weren't hunters. These were people that got displaced by the tornado that came through there and had maybe had nowhere else to go to and went into the LBL to kind of like live basically.
Yeah, because they had nowhere else to go.
Something happened to them because obviously, they didn't have a lot of worldly possessions left at this point. Well, most of them were still in and around that tent. While we're there, we start realizing there are these little stones coming out of the ground, and we're like, holy crap. There's like what looks to be another family plot here. And then Jesse sees that thing again. And was I filming you when that happened?
I think so.
Did I have a camera going? Because Jesse just doesn't even say what happened. She just...
No, I had a camera and I was
You
filming.
had a camera.
Yeah.
And then she has this moment where she just like her breath catches and she like basically sobs and she just had this visceral emotional reaction to it. She basically just kind of like slumped next to the tree and basically cried because she saw this thing again. And for some reason, the 3 times we've seen it, she's seen it twice. I've seen it once. I don't care what anybody says. Oh, you were imagining stuff. Bullshit. What I saw moved the branches of the tree when it went through.
Yeah.
And it didn't, and the ground dipped down, but it didn't dip down when it ran. It's like it stayed level across it. I can't explain it. I have no point of reference to say what that thing is or what we saw. But there's a certain level of physicality to it. But you have a very it doesn't seem right. It doesn't seem like it belongs here. It doesn't seem like it's.
Oh, that's a good descriptor for it. Yeah. It
like I told you before, the way it moved, the limbs look lanky. It doesn't look like it should move that quick.
It's incredibly unnatural.
It looks like deformed. It looks like it would be, it's just wrong looking, man. It just looks wrong. But that was the second tent that we found. And I don't even know if we filmed this or not. We went to go back that night to check it out. And we pulled up in the car. It's the LBL at night. It's pitch black. We start getting out of the car. Jesse gets really emotional because she's going, and I'm going, what's wrong? Is it because what you saw? And then she's like, no, man. I mean, these people, it's so dark out here right now. It's so scary. Even not knowing that there's something out in these woods, it's scary here. It's depressing. It's dark. And she goes, these people were living here. This is all they had. They lost everything, and it looks like they were just living here, and then something happened to them. And she was too emotional. We didn't go in that night. We literally go, you know what? We're not, it just didn't seem right to go in at that point. I don't even know if it was like a fear thing. It was like we were like kind of dancing on a grave or something like that, man. Like we were exploiting like tragedy at that point. And I know to a certain degree, a lot of what we do, I guess you could say, exploits tragedy. You know?
I mean, anybody that does any kind of ghost hunting or
you're exploiting tragedy to a certain right.
Somebody has to die for that spirit to haunt there, and then you're kind of exploiting that.
It didn't feel right for whatever reason. I mean, all of our instincts were telling us don't go down there. We didn't go down there for once. So yeah, we went somewhere else that night.
Yeah.
There you go.
There you go.
There you go. Lady Wolf says it looks like it glided. Yeah, what? If you watch the werewolf experiment videos, and I don't even know what numbers it's in, she does the editing and she divides it down. But when we find the abandoned tent, she sees something and she goes, you see her on camera. I kind of blew it off because I'm going, there ain't nothing there, So you kind of see me kind of go, everything's okay. Let's just figure out what we're going to. And then we go to another area where we found those pants and that boot. And then I saw, and again, I don't know what she saw. She doesn't know what I saw. Just by describing it to each other, we think it's the same thing. But what I saw was going, and it was just so fast, man. And it was just a straight line.
But it was the same thing that I saw.
It hit the branches, and it's these long arms like going. It doesn't look right. Yeah. And it's weird, man. And I ran over to it. You got me running over to it, right? Mm-hmm. And there's just nothing there. It just went behind the building, and then it's gone. There's an old rusted building that's like there from before the LBL was taken over, and it's just gone. It's just gone. Yeah. And I'm going, this is impossible. There's no way that thing could have like gotten away. There's like nothing there for it to hide behind. And then I go back to where it ran over, and it ran over this area that used to be like a garbage dump for that building. There's like old paint cans and stuff there, but it goes down like a foot. And I'm going, what I saw didn't follow the lay of the land. It didn't be at this level and then dip down and then get back up. It was just straight and fast and like really fluid. And it doesn't, the way it's like limbs are whipping, it doesn't seem like it could move that quickly or that gracefully.
Yeah.
When I'm thinking about it just now, though, something that just occurred to me that I've never really thought of before, it almost looked like something clumsy that something bigger had like thrown, and it was just flying across the ground. It's just
a very strange description.
But it's like it was flailing and it was just flying. It was just weird. All right, enough about that because we've already probably chased everybody off here. But yeah,
we're actually going to do last call in a second. Last call for alcohol. Finish your whiskey or your beer. But yeah, if you guys have anything else you want to throw in there or discuss, this is last call. Let's go ahead and throw that in there because we're coming up on the hour here.
Philip Payne wanted to know, regarding the abandoned tents, have you ever considered bringing in a professional remote viewer? No, and here's why. Jesse and I disagree on a lot of this stuff. You've probably seen some of that in evidence tonight. I don't 100% trust stuff like that because I don't trust a lot of this phenomenon. I don't think a lot of the stuff has it either doesn't have our best interests at heart. I'm not saying it's necessarily like evil the way we look at evil. I think a lot of times it's so alien that our concept of good and evil may not apply to it. And it wants what it wants. And we're not even really in the picture as far as that goes. So we're kind of inconsequential to it. So I don't really think very positively about a lot of this stuff. So for me, if somebody is telling me that they're getting information from somewhere else, how do I know what that source of information is? And how do I trust that source of information?
I agree with you on that point.
Yeah, but same thing with like hauntings. I don't think
that.
ghosts are the spirits of dead people. Something's telling you that it's the ghost of a dead 6-year-old kid from the 1920s. I don't think that's the case. I think it's something telling you that. I think it's something
demon,
mimicking that. Something. So yeah, we haven't, and that's why, because I wouldn't trust the information that I got
because you don't know the source.
I don't
of
know
the
the source.
information.
I don't know the source.
Yeah.
But you know what? It would be. Could it be considered a data point? Maybe, but we know that there's a trickster element to all of this. So it would set us into like a doubt spiral that I don't know how we would react to. Would I go, is it telling me something to draw me away from what's really going on? Is it telling me what's really going on, knowing that I'm going to think that, and then that way I won't pay attention to that anymore? I just wouldn't be able to.
We do have, we did do a small, we never finished it, but we started a small series where we were going to this. It's where we actually did our Halloween live stream. Yeah. So I did the Estes sessions. It's the same thing with that too. It doesn't mean I'm not going to try it. I'm going to try it, but I don't know where that information is coming from.
Yeah.
And we've gotten all kinds of information from that, but you can't take that information at face value. Just can't, like you can't trust every living person. You can't trust every dead person. And also you don't know if it's some other entity coming through on that. So it doesn't mean don't attempt these things to maybe make contact in such a way, but really take it with a grain of salt. That's why I'm interested in CE5. That's why I'm interested in, any kind of mediumship. I'm interested in it. I think it does have its place. It does have its spot. And it can be useful, but you can't take everything at face value.
So here's a good thing right here. Tracker had said, agree to disagree, because friend Tracker, is out west from us. He has had a lot of encounters and experiences, and his have been the opposite of what we've experienced.
Right.
But then again, I'm the first to say this. I don't think at the end of the day, we've had much Sasquatch experiences.
I don't think we have either.
And we are friends with some people out west who are Bigfoot researchers, and what they seem to experience is not what we're experiencing here. So just like I mentioned earlier, you've got that person who had that ape encounter, and then they know what they saw, they know what they experienced, and then they hear somebody with more of a woo story. They're going, well, you're lying, because that's not what I experienced. Both can be true. And Tracker's got a good point, because what he's experiencing out there, if you were to sit and talk to him, and he's a believable person. You don't hear his stuff and go, sure thing, buddy, whatever. He's had much different experiences than we have. So again, it's back to that. But I do say that a lot of times that it would be really cool to just experience like Bigfoot stuff, man. You know what I'm saying?
Wouldn't that be nice?
That's so much more palatable for so many people.
That's something I'm not as uncomfortable accepting.
Yeah, I mean, I'm uncomfortable talking about a lot of this stuff.
D and Dooster, thank you very much.
D and Dooster, you shouldn't have. Thank you, sir.
We will be hanging out with them this weekend. Let me run over all of that. Why don't you go through the chat, see if there's anything that sticks out that you wanted to.
All right, hit it.
I know that a bunch of people are saying goodbye in the chat right now. I'm going to go into
Hold on a second. Let's do this real quick. Stephen Taylor wants to know, Joe and Jesse, would you ask questions at the Bell Witch location?
Yes.
Dooster, we would. Dooster, what do you say about that? The Dooster is the Bell Witch guy. I would, but
I think you need to try
about
things.
That, because we went in there expecting to poke at it. You were going to take that hagstone you found. We were going to get it on the way back out. And then at the last minute, you went, I'm not taking that.
Because I like to try things. I like to experiment. I always go with my gut. And my gut said, no, you do not take anything. Not because of the stories, not because somebody, instilled fear in me. It's my inner monologue, my inner self. My feeling was something's not quite right. Don't take anything. Don't do something. So don't do things that you don't feel comfortable doing, but definitely experiment where you feel comfortable, because that's the only way you're going to get outside the box. I mean, everybody, like with Bigfoot research, everybody has been howling at the moon and banging on trees for years and years and years, and you got nothing. You got zilch, you got ditto, you got squat. So just try some extras. Just try some stuff. But only do things that you are comfortable with. Because if you are completely out of your comfort zone, you're leaving yourself open to possible negative entities attaching itself to you. So make sure you're very confident in what you're doing and you're comfortable with what you're doing and you feel okay doing it.
Deucer basically says the same thing. I'd ask a couple and see how that goes for proceeding further.
Yes.
Alan Lassiter, how are you, sir? Our fellow Carolinian. Are y'all going to merch at Monster for Merch? Have merchandise?
Merching it.
We've got some like stuff that we did up. I don't know. I mean, we're not really merchants. We don't really have like stuff. We might have some like t-shirts for sale or something. I don't know. We didn't, what's cool is we're not speaking. We're not doing anything. We get to go and just hang out. So we didn't really do a lot of prep work for this. So I got to see what we got.
Yeah.
We might have some stuff there. So,
Amber loves my hair, so there you go.
Thank you. It's nice. So,
I got a cut.
And Tracker says the same thing. He goes, I'm uncomfortable with the idea of going into the woods at night with a Dogman presence. I'm totally comfortable with our type of the old man or Bigfoot. You know what I'm saying? And as Tracker, and we've talked to Tracker extensively for like a better part of a year now, it seems like. And the stories he tells, there's commonality between them from story to story. And he's believable. And he's somebody who this has just happened to him. It's completely different than what we've experienced.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, and
all right. So this Saturday, June the 3rd, we will be in Canton, Ohio at the Doubletree at Small Town Monsters' first annual Monster Fest. Our table is going to be in the hallway between where the podcasting and screening room is and where the vendors hall is. There are going to be so many amazing vendors. Please bring money if you are coming to Monster Fest. We're not selling crap, but there's going to be a ton of amazing vendors. I'm bringing some cash so that I can buy something for my new house. And I just love buying art at these things. I know that Cassie is vending up there, and there's going to be a lot of really cool artists. So if you come, bring some cash to buy some cool art and merch from people. It's going to be an absolute blast. It's going to be the first big event of the year. We're so excited about it. This is one of the best things about doing this work is meeting other people that are interested in it and passionate about it. And it's so much more fun when it's in person and not on the internet. So as much as we love the internet,
E-Rev says we should sell quote unquote water.
We're going to sell my bath water.
Yeah,
But yeah, if you guys come out to Monster Fest, come by our table and make sure if you're going to come by, you can email us at helletholler@gmail.com. Make sure you put Monster Fest in the subject line.
Yeah, email us and let us know you're coming.
Let us know you're coming.
And let us know your YouTube handle.
Yeah. Or walk up to the table and let us know who you are, you know.
So.
But we might have some special goodies. We will definitely have some Helmet Holler stickers. So you can come by the table and you can get one. Because we love you guys. We're so excited to meet a bunch of hellbenders out there. And it's going to be a really, really good time. Thank you guys for joining us for this. Make sure you hit that like button before you head out the door. And my phone just went off. Sorry, very rude. But make sure you hit that like button before you head out the door. Make sure you are subscribed and you have your.
A lot of people got unsubscribed.
A lot of people got unsubscribed. That's a problem going on with YouTube right now. So make sure you are subscribed and you've hit that notification because I'm going to live stream from Monster Fest. So you will get a notification.
We're getting Matt Moneymaker drunk and we're going to.
I got to get a Matt Moneymaker wig and you just have to pretend you're Matt Moneymaker the entire time.
My Matt Moneymaker impersonation would be like the used car salesman that keeps like a pint of whiskey in the bottom drawer. You know what I'm saying?
Just smoking a cigarette. What are you girls up
Grace,
to?
thank you for that. So have fun at Monster Fest. We will. We had a good show tonight, man.
That was a great show. Yeah, yes. Thank you guys for joining us.
All the damn places.
We really appreciate it. We covered a lot of cool stuff and a lot of really uncool
Do
stuff.
check your subscriptions because, like I said, literally we had a massive wave, and then we started talking about it, and we had several people go, "Holy crap, you're right! I just realized that I've been unsubscribed to you without my knowledge." So
yeah, Kevin Stover is resubscribing.
Resubscribing,
yeah. You might have got kicked off.
Thank you for that, Grace. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys. I'll probably. I don't know. Check my Instagram too if you want to kind of follow our journey up there because I've never been to Ohio. I'm very excited about this. We might actually stop at Salt Fork on the way up. So I'm actually going to update my Instagram a lot. And so keep an eye on my Instagram if you want to kind of follow our journey. up there and all through Monster Fest. I'm actually going to take a bunch of pictures and update that. So if you guys want to follow along, it is at Hellbent Jesse on Instagram. Join us over there. Everything should push straight to the Facebook if you don't have an Instagram, so you can watch it there. But thank you guys so much for joining us tonight. As always, this is an amazing, amazing crowd. We love you guys so much.
Tracker with the $9.99 before the curtain falls. So thank you, Tracker.
See, I wish there was a Buc-ee's on the way, because this would be my beef jerky money.
Yeah, there's not a Buc-ee's on the way?
I know, it's heartbreaking. But yeah, we are so excited. We're so excited to meet you guys. And for you guys that are missing it, you can follow along with us. I'm going to try to update it as much as possible. So it is this coming weekend.
So
in Canton, Ohio. So thank you guys so much. We're going to throw on some music. You guys say goodbye to each other. Have a blessed night. Y'all stay safe. Take care of each other. And don't let the bed bugs bite. Bye, guys.